What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you the third and final part of our Scumbag Week. And today I am bringing you a legacy format deck centered around Sharpedo, Victini, and Slowking. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys, well, not necessarily liked the deck, but if you guys found this video entertaining or helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and click that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton and lets us do more for you guys. And if you guys were not here for the first two parts of my Scumbag Week, I encourage you to check out my Scumbag decks in the standard and expanded format. But I also wanted to explain why I am doing this. I'm going to try to make it short and sweet, but basically, Disruption decks have had undeniable impact and success on the metagame. I do not like playing them. I do not necessarily like, I just don't like playing them. I don't like playing against them. So instead of just doing them periodically throughout the year, I decided to just do 1 week where I show off some Scumbag decks, and that way I don't have to worry about them for the rest of the year. And so yeah, 1 standard, 1 expanded, and 1 legacy, all within a week. That way you guys don't have to worry about it for the rest of the year. But as for the question of the day, just like my questions on Monday and Wednesday, what deck do you think is the most scumbaggy in all of the legacy format and why? And once again, there were plenty of options to choose from. There were different Vileplume decks, and yeah, Vileplume is even in Legacy for those of you who aren't used to Legacy. There's Vileplume decks, there's Hammer Time, there's Durant Mill. There are plenty of different Scumbag decks that I could build a deck around. However, I decided to use one that I saw from ELO a long time ago, and that is a deck centered around Sharpedo and Victini. You guys will see why this deck, in my opinion, is the most scumbaggy in all of Legacy. So Sharpedo's attack, Strip Bear, 20 damage for 1 energy, so I mean not horrible, but not great. Flip 2 coins. If both of them are heads, your opponent discards all the cards from his or her hand. Well, that happens around 25% of the time. We're pairing that with Victory Star Victini, who allows you to reflip for attacks once during your turn, so basically give you a 50% chance of discarding your opponent's entire hand. Now, that in itself is pretty scumbaggy, but it doesn't beat like Hammer Time or anything like that, just because your opponent can top deck out of it. Well, this is where Slowking comes into play. Second Sight. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 3 cards of either player's deck and put them back on that player's deck in any order. That is what makes this deck the most scumbaggy in all of Legacy format, in my opinion. So Hammer Time, yeah, it can like disrupt everything you want to do. However, you can stockpile like energy or something like that. You can get yourself in a situation where you can just have all the pieces in your hand that you need and just have one super explosive turn where you can start taking them out. What Vileplume does, I mean, you can play around it. You don't get items, but you do get supporters, so you're still able to somewhat play around that to an extent. What this deck does is it not only gets rid of what you have on the field through, like, Crushing Hammer. Which, okay, yeah, I'm being scumbaggy, but if I'm going to be scumbaggy, you might as well go all out and throw a Crushing Hammer in there. What this deck does, the other decks, you're still allowed to play a little bit against them. What this deck does, it does not allow your opponent to play at all except for what you allow them. Once you Strip Bear, you get rid of your opponent's entire hand, and then with Slowking, you determine what they top deck. The only way your opponent is able to get through your Strip Bear lock and Second Sight lock is if they have like 3 supporters as the top 3 cards of their deck, or 3 cards that get them what they need, which does happen. However, there are still ways around it, and this deck is just ridiculously difficult to go up against once you have the full setup. So the fact that this deck doesn't allow your opponent to play except for what you allow them to play is why I think this is the most scumbag deck in all of the Legacy format. But again, just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think and why. So as for the numbers of Pokemon, you have 4/4 of Carvanha and Sharpedo. You have 2 Victini, Sharpedo, main attacker, Victini, Victini, you want to be able to have that, but you only really need 1. And then 3/2 of Slowpoke and Slowking, just so you can get those guys down, because Slowking not only helps out with controlling what your opponent top decks, if you get 2 down, you can also control what you top deck too, which is insanely strong. and I mean, just really just makes this deck incredibly difficult to take out once you get it set up. This deck is easily capable of coming back from a 1 to 6 prize deficit. Like if your opponent only has 1 prize left to take, but you finally get the Strip Bear, you get the second sight lock with Slowking, you're really just able to come back completely because your opponent just can't do anything. They only can do what you let them do, and you're not going to let them do anything that's going to allow them to take the game. So that is why I think this deck is so bad. Well, not bad, why this deck is so scumbaggy. 1, Computer Search just helps you set up quickly. 3, Crushing Hammer, because your opponent does get occasionally 1 or 2 turns to set up, and if they get a bunch of energy in play, Strip Bear doesn't do enough to where you're able to knock out their big attacker, so they will just be able to start lining up your Sharpedo and taking them out. Crushing Hammer allows us to be able to be like, okay, slow down a little bit and let's go from here. 1, Energy Search, because we do have, well, we are attacking with a single energy, so we don't have to run that many in this. But with the fact that we don't have to run that many energy means that sometimes you will not be able to get one when you need it to attack, and you really don't want to whiff on an early Strip Bear. So that's why we have 1 Energy Search to be able to do that for us. 3/3 of Laser and Virbank, just because, I mean, Strip Bear, even with a Silver Bangle and a Darkness Energy, the special energy that boosts attack, only does 60 damage to EXs. Laser Bank is crucial for getting that extra damage to allow us to take knockouts and win the game with that. 4, Junk Arm, be able to reuse everything that we want to use in our discard pile, like be able to get back a Laser, be able to get back a Bangle, Crushing Hammer, all of that. 4, Level Ball, because literally everything in this deck can be searched out with Level Ball. I mean, Sharpedo and Slowking are the 2 things with the big HP. Well, quote-unquote big HP in the deck, and both of them are searchable with Level Ball, so no reason to run Ultra Ball and have to discard. 1, Catcher, just to help kind of stall for time, bring out your opponent's Pokemon that really, like, they can't do anything with. It's just like their big retreat costs. Make them attach and retreat and get rid of the energy in order to be able to do that, expend resources to get them out of the active spot, or they'll just be knocked out. 2, Pokemon Communication as another way of being able to search out the Slowking or Sharpedo. I didn't want to run Ultra Ball just because there's so many things in this deck that you need, and Junk Arm and Computer Search discard enough to where I didn't want to use Ultra Ball, so that's why I decided to use PCOM. 2, Random Receiver, essentially as a way, well, essentially a pseudo VS Seeker in the Legacy format, except you got to get it from your deck. It's just a nice way of being like, well, I have a Junk Arm, but I don't have a supporter. Oh, I can just grab a Random Receiver and get a supporter. 1, Super Rod, because your Sharpedos are going to get knocked out early game. I mean, they're just going to go down like flies because they're so low in HP. However, you need to keep them coming until you can get the Strip Bear lock going. So Super Rod is able to get those out. 1, Switch in case our opponent decides to try to like catcher up Slowking or something like that, because that's the... Slowking has 2 retreat cost, meaning that we would have to manually attach 2 turns in a row in order to be able to get it. And yeah, 1 Tool Scrapper to help against Garbodor if your opponent gets a Garbodor set up. You cannot use Victory Star. You will be still able to use Second Sight because it's a Pokepower and not an ability. So Tool Scrapper helps on that front. The 3 Virbank, like I said, for the Laser. As for the supporters, 3 Juniper and 4 Oak. 4 Oak just because you really don't want to discard a whole lot. However, Juniper gets you a fresh hand of 7 when you need it. 1 Skyla to search out that Laser or the Energy Search or the Computer Search. Really just whatever you need. Skyla is just kind of an all-encompassing, alright, I need something. Let's go ahead and go with Skyla. That's not a bad option. 1 Float Stone to slap onto the Slowking as kind of a pseudo switch or a permanent switch. I mean, your opponent really won't have much, so if they draw into like a catcher or something, the only way they'll be able to break the lock is to bring up Slowking. So being able to get that out of there is really, really crucial. And also Slowpoke has a 2 retreat cost too, so if you start with it, you want to get that sucker out of the active as soon as possible to not have to attach to retreat. 2 Silver Bangle helps out with the damage output from Sharpedo, and then we have 3 darkness, well, 3 regular darkness and 4 special darkness. Normally I wouldn't run that many special darkness, but because we are controlling what our opponent draws, we can know if they have like a Lost Remover or something like that, so they won't as readily have access to it, meaning that we will have boost in our damage output, but also be able to play those without worrying about Lost Remover or Enhanced Hammer getting rid of those, because we will be able to get rid of our opponent's hand and then know what they are going to top deck. So yeah, I mean, it's a relatively straightforward idea. It's pretty difficult to execute, but but like I said, this deck is capable of making easy 1-6 comebacks once you're able to get the Strip Bear lock going and, well, with Second Sight. So yeah, I mean, that is the very scumbaggy deck. Let's go ahead and see this last entry of Scumbag Week in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Shining Blades with a, well, it looks like a little bit of everything. See the water, you see the lightning, you see the psychic, you see the grass, so I'm actually kind of intrigued to see what my opponent is playing. I mean, we didn't see the fire, so I'm thinking that it's not necessarily a, whatchamacallit, a Rayquaza deck, because that's usually the type of deck that you see that runs a ton of different types. We do start with the Carvanha and a very nice hand. We start with a very, very nice hand, and okay, it's a Plasma deck. So what I am going to do is Level Ball, immediately probably grab another Carvanha, just because, I mean, I am weak to Lightning, so even just a regular Ride Knuckle is going to be able to knock me out. Let's play that down, play the energy onto the benched one that my opponent has to, like, catcher if he wants to be able to knock me out. And then I am going to Junk Arm for the Level Ball, just probably grab yeah, let's just go ahead and grab a Slowpoke. I can get a Victini whenever I want. This way, I'm able to get a Slowking next turn, evolve it, go for the laser, actually get heads. So that is very nice. That'll be racking up damage, potentially buy us a turn, get a Silver Bangle, and a Virbank, and a Special Dark. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Virbank down, and my opponent just forfeits. So honestly, I don't know if my opponent knew what I was running, but either way, I mean, he's like, if he knew what I was running, he's probably like, yeah, screw that, I'm not going to play this. Or he was like, no, my opponent got way too good of a start, I'm not going to play this because I don't have the greatest hand. So either way, yeah, super short match. Let's go ahead and try to find another one. Alrighty, we have found another one against Kono 103, and it looks like, ooh, we could be up against a Virizion Genesect deck. Haha, that'd be awesome if we were able to get this going and then just completely lock them out of being able to do everything, anything and everything, and then Sharpedo just comes through. We are unfortunately going to go second. That's quite unfortunate against that deck. That'll give it more time to set up before I'm able to knock it out, and start with actually a pretty nice hand once again. I get a Carvanha and a Victini. Let's see what my opponent has. Okay, so wait, Metal and Silver Bangle. So this isn't a, this is not a whatchamacallit deck. This is clearly not a Genesect Virizion deck, because, I mean, you see the Metal energy. So I'm actually really curious what my opponent is running. We do get a mulligan card. That is a PCOM, not particularly helpful. And my opponent starts, no way. Is this a Scizor Prime deck? That'd be really awesome. We do see the Shield energy. We see the Skarmory, and, I mean, this is relatively the same type as my Scizor. Well, as the Scizor Prime deck that I ran. So, see the Skarmory with the Metal. My opponent is going to Level Ball. Probably, if he's going to grab a Scyther, this is it. Yeah, there it is. Guys, this is a Scizor Prime deck that we are up against. I actually feel like a very, very horrible person. Well, even more so than I already did. Just because Scizor Prime is such a cool deck, and I don't want to deter my opponent by being like, yeah, I'm just going to be a super scumbag. But either way, this is Scumbag Week, so we have to go with what we've got. And wow, this is nice. So what I am going to do is immediately just get a Slowpoke. Actually, I'm going to hold on to the Level Ball, but first I'm going to Hypnotoxic Laser up the Skarmory, and yeah, let's just go ahead and bite it. It's not going to do much, but I mean, we can at least bite for 10, get some laser damage, and my opponent does wake up. I actually played the Special Dark as opposed to the regular Dark, because even though I know that won't hit my opponent's Scizor, I should have enough going by the time he gets the Scizor powered up and able to knock out a Sharpedo, that I should just be like, okay, well, now I'm good to go. I don't have to worry about anything else. And there it is. There is the Scizor Prime. This is awesome. I am very excited to be playing against it. Unfortunately, I'm playing it with kind of a horrible deck, and my opponent actually decides not to attack and attach. I honestly don't know why. But either way, I am going to go ahead and Crushing Hammer, get rid of the energy on the Scizor. The Skarmory will go down this turn. Let's be a scumbag. Let's scumbag it up. Let's go ahead and level ball for a Sharpedo. And my opponent forfeits. He probably saw what was going to happen and decided, yeah, he wants no part of that either. We did flip very well on the coin flips, except for that first heads, which ended up making us go second, which is not what we wanted, but still able to get heads on the laser and the Crushing Hammer. So unfortunately, still not able to strip bear yet. Not surprised at all, but either way, awesome Scizor Prime deck. Let's actually try to find a good match now with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one against Navanua, maybe? Navanua? Whatever. However you want to pronounce it. I kind of like Navanua, just because that sounds kind of cool. With the Chansey coin. I don't know why, but I like that Chansey coin. Somebody told me what it was from, and I completely forgot. But either way, my opponent is going to call the coin flip. We do win because Tails actually failed, even though Tails never fails. But we start off with... you know what? That's not bad, actually. We start off with the Victini, get a level ball, able to get a... Going to be able to get a Carvanha out, turn 1. Going to be able to Hypnotoxic Laser, whatever my opponent's active is. So, you know what? That's not a bad start. I'm curious to see what my opponent is running. And once again, I forgot the sleeves. So, okay, my opponent's running a dark deck. I am going to immediately try to catcher in something that won't be able to do much of anything. So yeah, let's go ahead and bring up that Darkrai, start getting damage on it with Hypnotoxic Laser, and hopefully Virbank, if I can get that later. Get Tails so he stays awake. That's fine at this point. I'm going to go ahead and Carvanha, get that sucker down, and then I'm actually going to Juniper. I'm getting rid of 2 Oaks and a Crushing Hammer, but I need to get more things set up. Ooh, okay, so I get a Slowpoke. I'm going to get a Special Dark onto my Carvanha. I have a Sharpedo for next turn. I have a Float Stone for my Victini, and I can just potentially Junk Arm for a Level Ball to get a Slowking as well. So I'm actually off to a very nice start. I would have liked to have a Virbank, but other than that, this start is very, very nice. I can potentially strip bear next turn for, I mean, it's only for a couple damage, but see the Lost Remover. Oh boy. So is this like a half Hammer Time? A half Hammer Time Dark variant? Because, I mean, okay, so, I mean, maybe you just run Lost Remover as a tech. I mean, that's completely understandable, and is something I do in a lot of decks, just to be like, okay, Plasma, slow down, I'm just going to hold off on you, and my opponent ends me. I actually don't like this because I liked my hand. I had something that I could actually really work with. I mean, I'll get a new hand of 6. Well, you know what? That works. That works too, assuming my opponent doesn't put me to sleep here. He does not. That is great for me. My opponent will be able to rush in and retreat with Keldeo to reset the poison. Probably just go back, or goes into Sableye, so that's fine with me. He won't be able to Junk Hunt this turn. Victini is going to have some of the poison racking up on it. I get another Special Dark, which I am just going to play onto my Carvanha. See if I can... Well, I Crushing Hammer, immediately get heads. That is beautiful. Let's go ahead and Sharpedo. Let's Random Receiver to get that in the discard pile. See what I get. I get a Juniper. You know what? I'm just discarding my hand again. I need that Float Stone. I need a way to get out of the active, and I do not get it. That is very unfortunate, but what I am going to do right here is Junk Arm, get rid of the Tool Scrapper and the Sharpedo to grab the Hypnotoxic Laser, just because I think I need to buy myself some time. I can always just laser later. And, I mean, I can Random Receiver, get rid of both Special Darks next turn if I need to. But at this point, I just need to buy myself a little bit more time. Victini will have damage racking up on it. But at this point, my opponent does actually stay asleep. That's not a big deal because of Rush Treat. However, he will have to manually attach onto the Keldeo, which is what I wanted to do. So he does manually attach. That means he'll have to have a Dark Patch, which he does. Okay, onto the Absol. And... okay, Virbank's up, that's fine. Victini is going to have 10 damage. Is going to have 10 HP left, but I mean, as long as my opponent doesn't get much else set up, so we will be able to rush in, retreat into something. I'm honestly not sure what. And yeah, so it just goes into the Absol, I guess, put up as fodder. Victini will potentially go down this turn, and oh, that's nice. So what I am going to do, I could Level Ball, but I think I'm just going to attach the Special Dart to the Victini to be able to retreat. I mean, I could have Level Balled for a, like a, whatchamacallit, a Slowking, but this is actually super nice, because what I can do is go ahead and PCOM, get rid of the Carvanha, well, put that back in my deck, not get rid of, grab a Slowking, now I can retreat. I could play the Float Stone, but I actually want to save that for a Slowking if my opponent decides to try to catch that up to stall for time. Silver Bangle up my Sharpedo. I am going to second sight my opponent's deck, I think. Let's see. Do I want to do that yet? Or actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and Level Ball for another Slowking. That way I can second sight my opponent's deck and my own deck, because I'm in top deck mode right now, but I want to also be able to potentially strip bear and lock my opponent out of being able to do anything. And okay, this is bad. If I give him an energy, he'll be able to knock out my Sharpedo. If I give him the Chorus, that's obviously a draw support, and the Laser potentially buys him a turn. So what I think I'm going to have to do is give him the Laser. Yeah, I'm going to have to give my opponent the Laser, just because that's the only thing that won't be able to allow him to knock out my Sharpedo, but also not be able to draw cards. And okay, I am going to get myself a Skyla, I think. Yeah, Skyla Dark and Carvanha, that's fine. I can just Skyla for a Juniper, just have an extra turn, then Strip Bear, see if I can discard my opponent's entire hand. Don't even have to use Victini, because we get 2 heads immediately, and goodbye to my opponent's entire hand. I know exactly what he's drawing. He's going to be drawing a Hypnotoxic Laser. I mean, that's going to be able to, get damage on my Sharpedo, but I do have a Float Stone. I do have another Sharpedo. I know I'm getting the Skyla. So let's go ahead and Skyla. Probably just grab an Energy Search. Yeah, there is energy in my deck. There's actually no other supporters, so going through those Juniper and Oak was a big mistake on my part. Oops. But what I am going to do is, I think I'm just going to grab the Energy Search to be able to attack with my, a Sharpedo this turn, but also not give my opponent a potential prize with the laser damage. So, oh boy, probably shouldn't have Junipered away all those Oak's new theories. Oops. Either way, yeah, Energy Search is just going to be my option at this point. Be able to, I'm going to second sight my opponent's deck, just try to make sure that he doesn't get anything good. Does get a Darkrai, so I am going to put that on top. That's not going to help him at all. Let's Energy Search, grab a Darkness Energy, so that I can put that onto my Carvanha on the bench. Let's Sharpedo that thing up. Go ahead and play the Darkness there, and then let's second sight, see if I can get something else that I can work with next turn, and a Laser. That is beautiful. I can definitely work with that. And yeah, I mean, this is how this deck functions. I am locking my opponent out of everything. He has no resources. The only thing he gets to do is, the only thing my opponent gets to do is what I allow him to do. And honestly, that's why I chose this deck as the most scumbaggy, because at this point, my opponent has absolutely zero resources. The only plays he gets to make are the plays that I allow him to make with second sight. And yes, I know that Legacy has a bunch of other scumbaggy decks. By the way, we won, in case you didn't see, but I was ranting anyway. But, I mean, I know that Legacy has things like Hammer Time and other scumbaggy decks like that. I actually think that this is the most scumbaggy of all the decks I've played, just because it only allows you to do what your opponent lets you do. It doesn't allow you to play the game, and I'm actually going to end the video here. I know this is short, but I kind of feel bad playing this deck because, like I said, it doesn't let your opponent do anything except what you let them do with Slowking, and the only way to draw it is to get 3 cards in a row that are absolutely useful. So Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed as much as you could. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.